And welcome back to Chicago Bulls Insider. Today, we are talking about forward Cam Whitmore and if he would be a good fit for the Chicago Bulls. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to slam dunk on that subscribe button, just like Modest Vazella slam dunks in games. And so in exchange for slamming on that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Chicago Bulls. So make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Chicago Bulls Insider family as we talk nothing but Chicago Bulls basketball. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into it as we are talking about forward Cam Whitmore of the Houston Rockets and if he would be a good fit for the Chicago Bulls. And so to get an idea of what is going on, let's go ahead and jump into the most recent rumor around the Houston Rockets. And so you can find this pretty much everywhere. This was originally published in The Athletic. It was from a writer, Kelly Iko, who covers the Houston Rockets, but he writes for The Athletic here. And so he talks about the interest that there is around the league around Cam Whitmore. And so if you want to go find out what this article said, you can go to Yahoo Sports. If you want to go to the paid version or subscribe to The Athletic, you can go read the original version. But if you go over to Yahoo Sports and you go in there, they give you the excerpt where he is talking about Cam Whitmore and just really the situation around him and how there have been teams that have inquired about him. And so I'm just paraphrasing what is being said here. And so it says that a handful of teams have inquired about Cam Whitmore and his availability, talking about how he was the number 20 pick in the 2023 draft and talked about how he has struggled to get into a tight rotation at times and has expressed his displeasure at the end of the bench. But there's still some optimism around his potential and his rotational spot. And they're also talking about at this stage, neither Whitmore nor his representation has requested a trade. Both sides are hopeful of finding a solution. And so how does this tie into the Chicago Bulls? And so going to that first line there, that a handful of teams have inquired about his availability. And I would have to say that if he is available or if teams have inquired about him, I would think that the Chicago Bulls should definitely inquire about Cam Whitmore. And so if you're not familiar with Cam Whitmore or his game, this is a talented forward that I think is just, he has a ton of potential and just really needs, I think, an opportunity. And so Cam Whitmore out of Villanova, as we just talked about, he was the number 20 pick in 2023. He's only 20 years old, 6'7", 230. And when you look at the numbers, I think you certainly see a player that has some potential as we go to the numbers right now. And so you can see for yourself, I mean, this is a guy that has already figured out a way to score double figures in this league. He's in just year two. And so just going off this last season, you see that he averaged 9.4 points a game. You see that he had 3 rebounds a game, 1 assist. He shot 44% from the field and 35.5% from 3, 75% from the free throw line. He had a 0.3 block average there and a 0.6 in the steals as far as the averages there, but 16.2 minutes a game. You see that he played in 51 games, and 3 of those games he started. And so, look, Cam Whitmore, you see the potential right there. Going back to what I was talking about with the scoring potential, his first year, 12.3 points per game. You also see, too, that the minutes went down from year one. So he played 18.7 minutes in year one, and he fell down to 16.2 minutes this game, or excuse me, not this game, but this season. And so, you know, Cam Whitmore, a ton of potential, and it fits really what the Chicago Bulls would be looking for, because based off what AK has said, he is looking to add players that have shown flashes, that are young, and that can come over and contribute right away for the Chicago Bulls. And so we've talked about this with Jonathan Kuminga. I think that when you look at Cam Whitmore, he certainly fits exactly what the Bulls would want to do as far as going out and adding young players that can immediately contribute and maybe get into a different role with this team and actually take off. And so I like this a lot if Cam Whitmore was available and the Chicago Bulls certainly inquired about him. The question now would be, what do you do to get him? Because I do get this situation that's going on with him. I mean, he is dealing with a deep rotation over there with Dylan Brooks, Amon Thompson. You got Jabari Smith Jr., and they got a ton of other players that are playing in front of him. And I do think that you get him over here, it certainly would be intriguing with his athleticism, the way that he can score. I think his efficiency is something that we just saw because he shot 44% and 35.5%. I think that those percentages are very solid, especially for a player that really hasn't got a chance to crack the rotation. And so I can imagine coming over to the Chicago Bulls and being a wing player, which is what this team needs. That would be huge for us. And so, what does a potential deal look like? I mean, maybe you're looking at a deal where perhaps the Rockets would be interested in Ayo. I could say that maybe they would want him because here is a player that he can score, but he also plays defense at a high level too. And so I think that, when you look at Coach Ime and really the identity that he's establishing with the Rockets, I think he wants to have a team that has some toughness. I think that when you look at Ayo Dosunmu, he certainly could bring that for you. And then I think a couple of other players that really make sense for the Rockets to perhaps be interested in would be a player like Kevin Huerter. I could see him being a player that the Houston Rockets would like to bring over, a guy that can come off your bench, maybe start at times, knock down some three-point shots, and really open up the floor for you. Next, I could also see Zach Collins could be a player that the Houston Rockets are interested in as well, because, you don't know what's going to happen with Steven Adams. I think clearly one of the big things for the Rockets was the fact that they could go out and they could rebound the basketball at a high level. And so I think that you would get a guy in Zach Collins who has shown that he can definitely help you with the boards and bring the physicality. At times he can stretch the floor, and he's good off the pick and roll. And the plus about all three of those players is that they have all had roles where they've started and they've all come off the bench as well. And I think that with those players, really with the Houston Rockets, it fits them because they get the experience that they want and it shores up their bench. And I think that that is really the talk around the Houston Rockets. Just if you're seeing, in the news with trades and things like that, that they're looking for more experience to try to push them over the top. And so I could see those players would maybe be of interest to the Rockets. And I just think going back to the Chicago Bulls, it's all about the potential. And I think that that's really what AK has expressed when it comes to adding, talent that has shown flashes in this league. And so, with Cam Whitmore, and when you look at the numbers, I mean, comparatively speaking to what the Chicago Bulls have had with Patrick Williams, I mean, I think that Cam Whitmore, even though you're still trying to figure out, can he be a player that plays well off the ball? Can he defend a lot better individually? I think he's shown that he can definitely play the passing lane. I think he's definitely shown that, he can be a dynamic scorer with the ball in his hands. But coming over, with Josh Giddey, Coby White, and just the rest of the team, I think that he would have to be in a situation where he's playing a bit off of the ball. You got to think Modest Bazelis is still going to be here with us. I'd anticipate that he's going to be here with us for the long term. And so anyway, I think that he would have to be much better off the ball, and he's going to have to be better as an individual defender. But the potential is there because he is going to get, I think, a definite opportunity with the Chicago Bulls, and really they need front court help. And so, is it something that the Bulls say, okay, we get him via trade, and then now what you can do is in the draft, you can maybe focus on going out there and getting a center, because now you say, okay, Zach Collins, if you do move him in a trade, that's if you move him in a trade, you still have Jalen Smith. And so you could go out, you could get you a center there in the first round. If you want, you can come back in the second round and get you another center. If that's what you want to do, you could go that route. That would mean that you're also looking to move on from Vooch. And then if you don't go that route and you say, okay, look, we have Cam Whitmore, which is a wing, you could go out, you can get another wing. You could go out and you can get another center as well in round 2. And so those are just a combination of ways in which the Chicago Bulls could really address their front court and really get some wing depth as well. And you're going to get a player that immediately helps you out. And so, you also have to factor in that in a potential deal, I would think that AK would want to negotiate and find a way to get some additional assets in the form of picks. And so I think if the Bulls could get, even some second rounders that can maybe help them out for this year, or stack up some second rounders for some time to come, whatever that looks like. I just think that he would have to do that and not punt on the draft. And so when you look in comparison to what Cam Whitmore would do based off what we saw with Patrick Williams, I think that, look, there is a ton of upside there that I would like to take a chance with, because with Patrick Williams, just comparatively speaking, here's a player that I still would expect that he's going to get a lot of minutes and things like that with this team, even if he's not starting. But still, at 26 or 25 minutes a game, he averaged 9 points a game. He also had 0.8 with his steals, 3.8 rebounds, 35.3 from 3, and 39.7 from the field, and 72.3% from the free throw line. And so Cam Whitmore alone, being out of the rotation, has a better field goal percentage. He has a better 3-point percentage. He has a better free throw percentage. So he's shooting a lot better. And as far as the efficiency, and then also too, I think that you get a much more, just player that's more engaged competitively. And so also too, with Cam Whitmore, this is a guy that went for 34 points against the Lakers, if you want to go check out and see what he can do as a scorer. But the question is, is it a good enough fit that the Chicago Bulls would want to do that? And so anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. Do you think that the Chicago Bulls would be wise to go out and get a Cam Whitmore? Because I can tell you this, if you're comparing this to a Jonathan Kuminga type of deal, when you look at the contract situation, this is a bit more favorable as far as what the Bulls would be working with financially here, because you're seeing what he has left on his contract before he goes into restricted free agency in 27, 28. And so, with Jonathan Kuminga, this is a player that, you're going to have to immediately go ahead and pay him in a sign and trade. And so that's the difference here. And so you would get something that is similar to a Jonathan Kuminga, hasn't been to the highest level as far as being on a team and winning a championship or anything like that. But still, I think that Cam Whitmore would provide a ton of value for the Chicago Bulls. And I do think that, look, it's something that's worth exploring. I'm not in the camp of necessarily giving up Ayo Dosunmu, to make that very clear. But I think it is something that would have to be explored, because he is on a team-friendly deal. Are you going to extend him? That's going to be a question there for AK and what he's thinking. And I said this yesterday with AK. I feel like that once he gets locked in on players and once he likes you or whatnot, he's shown that he's the type of guy that will hold on to his assets. And so that's why I'm not really believing that could be a potential, but I would have to think that Ayo Dosunmu would be in the discussion if Cam Whitmore were on the table. And so you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. Would you like to see Cam Whitmore land over here with the Chicago Bulls? Or do you think that this is a deal you would not like to see? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And as we always say, look, go Bulls. And I will see you guys on the next one. All right, peace.